Themes of colonialism in African literature, explained simply. Welcome back to Prose and Perspective, where African literature is explained with clarity, depth, and relevance. Today's topic is one of the most important and most examined subjects in African literature: colonialism. In this video, I will explain the themes of colonialism in African literature in simple, clear language. We'll look at how African writers portray colonial rule, what it did to African societies, and why these stories still matter in our modern world. Whether you are a student, teacher, or curious reader, this explanation will help you understand colonialism beyond dates and history through human experience. Before we examine the literature, we must understand the term itself. Colonialism refers to a system where foreign powers took control of African lands, resources, and governance, often using force. But beyond political control, colonialism also affected culture, language, religion, education, and identity. African literature responds to colonialism not as abstract history, but as lived reality, how ordinary people experienced loss, conflict, confusion, and resistance. Africa before colonialism. One major theme in African literature is the portrayal of African societies before colonial rule. Writers like Chinua Achebe show that Africa was not a dark continent without order. Instead, African societies had organized systems of leadership, strong moral codes, cultural rituals and traditions, functional justice systems. In Things Fall Apart, for example, Umuofia is shown as a structured society with laws, festivals, and values. This literary approach corrects false colonial narratives that portrayed Africa as backward. The arrival of the colonizer. A recurring moment in African novels is the arrival of the colonial presence: missionaries, administrators, and soldiers. This arrival is often subtle at first: missionaries preaching religion, schools introducing Western education, and trade and administration following shortly. In many novels, colonialism enters quietly, but its impact is loud. It divides communities, weakens traditional authority, and introduces foreign values that conflict with local customs. Cultural conflict and identity crisis. One strongest themes is cultural conflict. Colonialism forces Africans into a painful choice: hold on to tradition or adopt the new ways to survive. Characters like Nwoye in Things Fall Apart experience an identity crisis. They are caught between the old world and the new, unsure where they belong. African literature shows that colonialism didn't only conquer land, it confused identity. People began to question who they were, what to believe, and where they belonged. Religion and education as tools. African writers often portray religion and education as tools of colonial control. Christianity is sometimes presented as offering comfort and hope, especially to the marginalized. However, it also undermines traditional belief systems, weakens communal unity, and encourages obedience to colonial authority. Education, while empowering, often promotes Western superiority and makes African children ashamed of their heritage. This dual nature, opportunity mixed with loss, is a common theme in African literature. Resistance and silence. Another key theme is resistance, and sometimes tragic silence. Some characters resist colonialism openly through rebellion. Others resist quietly by preserving culture, language, and memory. In some cases, like Okonkwo's, resistance becomes self-destructive, showing that force alone cannot stop change. African literature does not romanticize resistance. It shows its complexity, cost, and consequences. Long-term effects of colonialism. Many African novels also explore the long-term effects of colonialism,
broken traditions, lost authority, economic inequality, and psychological trauma. Even after independence, the damage remains. African writers remind us that colonialism did not end with flags coming down. It continued in systems, mindsets, and structures. Why does this theme still matter today? Because many modern challenges, identity struggles, governance issues, and cultural conflicts are rooted in colonial history. African literature helps us understand our past, interpret our present, and imagine a more balanced future. These stories are not about blaming, they are about understanding. If this explanation helped you understand colonialism in African literature, like the video and share it with someone studying literature. Subscribe to Prose and Perspective for more clear, thoughtful explorations of African prose and fiction. And as always, read boldly, think deeply, AfriHeart leading the way.